You are listening to Two Heels and a Face Wrestling Podcast, a podcast where we believe wrestling is a buffet and there's something there for everyone. Make sure you're following us on all social media such as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook under Two Heels and a Face. That's number 2 Heels and a Face. Make sure you check out our website, twoheelsandaface.com.
Era, 2 Heels and a Face.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Heels and a Face Wrestling Podcast. On today's episode, we need to update the count, Chris. I got to make a note. I'm going to actually make a note to do that right now. Update Steve count. Steve episode count. Because we have Steve from Warrior on, and he gets farther and farther away from Trent in the race. For most recurring Two Heels and a Face guests, there is the graphic.
The match that never ends.
The match that never. It's just like wrestling. You just keep extending the feud, keep rolling it into the next thing. We haven't talked to him since that trivia
episode, yeah,
where he ended up coming up a little short, which is all good. It was all good fun, but it's going to be great to have Steve back on because trouble is brewing. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for this. Trouble is Brewing, Revolution Brewery, a show that's coming up, and Steve's going to talk all about it. So he's in the green room. I think we should just bring him on.
Let's do it.
Hey.
Hello, gentlemen.
Steve.
You had to bring up the big loss to Trent, huh? Oh, I got a welcome back chant. That warms my heart.
You're still over, even despite you got even more over.
I got more over in losing, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. How have you been, man?
Amazing. How have you guys been?
Can't complain.
Things are good, but last time we also saw a background, very colorful background on your end. You have a lot of toys and things going on, so I'm sure your hands are full. Your time is limited.
Yeah, so this is what I do with my
girl
time.
dad sweater and everything.
Play with all these things here. It's just a hobby. My wife bought them for me because I just I've got a 1-year-old baby girl. She's 15 months this week, and she's chatting like crazy and walking everywhere and playing with everything and memorizing every animal in the books and the stuffed animals. So life is mostly dad life right now, and I'm loving it.
I know you got this for those watching on YouTube. This is the bonus stuff. You get a peek into Steve's life, but you also the girl dad sweatshirt. So congrats on embracing that, and that's awesome, and very happy for you. And we're on the missus has us on a curfew tonight for sure. Okay, trouble is brewing. We can hop right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool that it's at the Revolution Brewery. Really cool that I live in the area, and once again, very, very spoiled. But yes, I guess tell us the origin story of the show, how it came about, and it's also branded very differently. So
yeah, so it's not a Warrior branded show. So as Henry and I had mentioned on one of our podcasts, we've been struggling a lot recently trying to figure out what's the next step for Warrior, right? Like what do we do with it? Where does it go? How does it evolve? How does it grow? And as this opportunity came about, we had a lot of internal discussions among the gang about, is this a Warrior show at Revolution Brewing? And we decided, no, it's not. It's a specific one-off thing that actually might grow into more things. But it's not a Warrior show. And part of that is, as we're figuring out how to imagine what Warrior's place is in the wrestling landscape, we don't want to try on a bunch of different clothes on Warrior, if that makes sense. We don't want to try, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's, because then you end up messing with it, right? So it's like if you put out Pepsi and you put out all these different variations of the formula of Pepsi, still calling it Pepsi, then you just kind of confuse people. So our thought was, we're not going to call it Warrior. This is its own standalone thing. It's the Warrior team doing it with Revolution Brewing, but it's not Warrior. It's something unique just for Revolution. So it actually came about through discussions. We had a bunch of sponsorship discussions in the spring and fall, the summer and fall of 23. And one of those conversations evolved with Revolution Brewing. We had several meetups over there talking to their team, and the idea of what we could do. We wanted to do something together. What that was going to look like kind of evolved and grew. And then I was the one that threw out the idea. They've got the brew pub in Logan Square, and then this amazing warehouse tap room in Avondale.
Yeah.
And I was the one who I looked at their team and I was like, guys, we should do a show here. And at first they're like, no, we can't do that. And we just kind of talked more and talked more and talked more. And we walked the space. We looked at logistics and all these things. And we realized like, yeah, that would be totally unique and different for their crowd, for our crowd. And so Trouble is Brewing was born, a pro wrestling and beer extravaganza, combining these two amazing things. And we're just going to let it fly and see what happens.
I love that. This is okay. Chris is showing on the screen right now. What is this beer he's showing? Is this specific, or do we know what this is?
I don't know if it's specific, but it's something that they launched. It just kind of goes hand
it's
to
one
hand
of their
with the show.
limited. It's part of their Hero series, and Nelson Hero is limited. Comes out once every year or two.
Okay.
And it's Anti-Hero is like their big IPA.
Yeah.
It's like the guy in the military uniform with the hop head. Nelson Hero is a takeoff of Anti-Hero, and it's a wrestling themed beer. It's a wrestling themed IPA. And so it actually just came back out for the year a couple of weeks ago in conjunction with the announcing of the show and tickets going on sale. So grab a Nelson Hero if you can and bring it and rock it at the show.
There you go. So the idea to do it sounds like, and I don't want to say like, it sounds like you guys are figuring out what your new identity will be, I guess. Is that fair to say? Like we're shifting. And we're shifting for reasons because we want to be unique, and being different is great. It's in our bio, I think, on our Twitter or Instagram, embrace being different. So like we support that, but it sounds like you guys are figuring out or have figured out like where you want to point this promotion, what path you want to take. That's true, right?
Yeah. And honestly too, I would kind of compare it to being a restaurateur in a sense of like, let's say Warrior Wrestling was the girl and the goat, right? Like, so we had it. It was a thing. It rocked, and it's not necessarily gone, but it exists in the marketplace, right?
Yeah,
it is like Cabra, like one of the spinoffs that Stephanie Eisner has, or like Little Goat or Duck, right? Like it's another restaurant in our restaurant group.
Okay,
and we were kind of looking at it. So you might have a steakhouse and a seafood restaurant. We've got Warrior, and then we've got whatever this is and is going to become. Trouble is Brewing is the test case. It is the pilot. Whether we're going to do more shows like this with Revolution and possibly with other breweries. We're actually in talks with breweries all across the Midwest about finding this cool niche for a show in a very specific venue in a unique, different way. So I would say, think about it like a restaurant group. Warrior is Girl and the Goat. It's the flagship restaurant.
Sure.
It is a different restaurant in the same group.
Okay, that makes sense. Was it this? So the decision to brand it the way it was that joint, or was that something like you guys spearheaded?
Really, I was kind of the driver of that specifically because, as we talked a little bit about off air, for Warrior, we're still trying to figure out what that brand looks like going forward. It had a very specific place in the marketplace in 18 and 19. COVID hit. It had a very specific place in 20 and 21 because of COVID. Late 21, we got Will Ospreay. And again, we had him in 19, but Ospreay came back in 21 and we hit it off so well with Will. Will did a 6-month run with us. So in 22, we had this identity of taking Will Ospreay around the Midwest and doing St. Louis, South Bend, Grand Rapids with Will Ospreay. And then in 23, we realized we really kind of struggled to figure out what is our identity in 23. And then as we look forward in 24 and 25, we're trying to figure out where does it fit? And we don't want to do something unless we know, right? There are some people in our camp who are like, we just got to keep running shows and trying different stuff. And like I mentioned off air, I don't want to keep tampering with the flavor of the candy and then have people not know. And so I don't want to do more Warrior until we know what flavor we're going to bring to the market with it that we think can be a long-term flavor for it. So right now it's just kind of like PWG, right? They've run one show in the last 15 months. Warrior is just, it's kind of hanging out on the shelf and we're focusing on this new restaurant in the restaurant group. Yeah,
no, that makes sense because I would not say as, once again, we'll talk about this, but you sold out. So congrats on that. Second Wrestling has recently sold out. Congrats to them. Freelance has sold out, I think, 2 months in a row. Congrats to them. And the Ali show's for sure going to be a sellout for them. And I'm sure he helped you guys as well. So I wouldn't say as a fan, we're not necessarily starved for independent wrestling right now. So it makes sense your more methodical, longer planning approach does make a ton of sense, because it's not like, maybe people are starving for more warriors, sure, but you're giving them a little less volume but higher quality. And that I think you can afford to bide your time a little bit and do the thing you want to do, as opposed to just running for the sake of running.
Exactly. And that's what I don't want to do, right? I have this term I use with restaurants. I don't know why restaurants keep coming up tonight. Maybe I'm hungry. I just ate.
Wrestling's a buffet, Steve.
There you go. That's why. I have this term I always use with restaurants, which is like, oh, you went to wherever. How was it? And sometimes I'll be like, it was warm food. But like, it wasn't bad. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's not like, wow, that was so good or unique, I have to go back. I don't ever want to serve warm food. Like, I don't want people to go to 2 or 3 Warrior shows and go, how was it? It was warm food. Like, no. Like, when we put on a Warrior show, it has to be the absolute best pro wrestling show we can possibly produce. And we have to look at this card and go, this could be our best show ever. And Eric and I have that threshold for ourselves. If we're building a Warrior card and we don't look at it and say, this could be our best show ever, then we scrap it. Like, we do not produce just because we produce every month. We're not just going to put warm food out there. And right now, with the way the indies have shifted and changed so much in the last couple of years, there just isn't. I don't know what our next menu item is going to be with Warrior, and I don't want to just serve old hot dogs, right? Like, I want to wait until I figure it out. Like, oh, this is the next step. And so in the meantime, Trouble is Brewing has come about, where we're like, all right, we know we want to do something with Revolution Brewing. We know we want to work with Ali, right? Like, I've been emailing with Ali since the moment, like literally since the moment it was announced he was done with WWE. Like, that afternoon, I think he and I traded emails. And I've not hung out with him, don't know him personally, but I know all the freelance guys like you do, and they all know him and whatnot. So we knew we wanted something with Ali. We knew we had something growing with Revolution Brewing. And the question was like, all right, do we try to shoehorn Warrior into that? Or do we let this thing just breathe? Do we connect Ali and Revolution and do something unique and new there? And so we had a lot of talks behind the scenes with a lot of different wrestlers. Who could the opponent be? And this show was really built around, we got Ali and Trey Miguel. And that is a match that, going back to our Warrior roots, if that match was happening in Milwaukee, Eric and I would hop in the car and drive to Milwaukee, right? Like, that's just a match we would want to see. And so the thought was, we've got a venue, we've got a unique idea, we've got a match. Let's roll and let's build around that. And we have. And as you mentioned earlier, right, like, we announced the show, announced Ali, announced a few other talents, announced the match, waited, announced tickets are going to go on sale. We sold the damn thing out in like 15 minutes. It was unreal.
I was going to say, like, under 30 minutes. I think that was the post. But
yes. Okay. I mean, like, I think there was like one lingering ticket for like 10 minutes at the end, like one ticket by itself. And we're like, someone buy that one VIP ticket. But like, it was crazy. And we did not expect that at all. Revolution didn't expect it. We didn't expect it. And we were like, damn, we tapped into something, right? With for the Revolution fans,
was that a pun?
Cool. No, but actually, but like for them, like for the beer fans, the people who are fans of their brand and their restaurant and their location, we're bringing something new and cool and weird that they're like, sure, let's try it. And for our fans, like you said, they're a little bit starved. Last time they saw Warrior was out in the suburbs in June. Like, it will have been like 9 months since there was a Warrior show in Chicago. Okay. So there's a little bit pent up demand, plus Trey versus Ali. And I think all of those factors, us holding tickets and then putting them on sale, and people just jumped. I cannot tell you, like, my cousins were texting me later in the day, like, something's wrong with the ticket site. And I was like, sorry, it's sold out, right? Like, we didn't expect it, but it happened, and we're thrilled.
Steve, if I can ask, because I mean, obviously I saw that the show, when it was announced, it was through Warriors Facebook page.
Yeah.
Right. Did Revolution do any promotion on their end, or was it all through Warriors social channels that this was pushed out?
So they posted it on some of their, I think, on Twitter and Instagram, and reposted some of the stuff that we posted. I'm not sure about their Facebook. I don't have their Facebook. But they put it out to their socials as well, and they put it out internally, like at the restaurants. And I'm not sure if they did an email as well, but word got around real darn quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was effective. That's where I was going to. Like, I don't know if it was, both ends kind of pushing it out, but just because, I noticed with Warrior right away, like like even the page itself, right, with the green, like, and it just kind of looked like a different thing. Like, what's going on? What is this? So it automatically grabbed my attention, and of course, you throw beer in there along with wrestling. Why not?
Yep.
But yeah, like that was pretty cool to see. Like, it was definitely something different. That definitely for us wrestling fans, it at least for me, it caught my attention in that sense of like, wait, it's not Warrior branded, but Warrior is promoting it. And it just, it was intriguing, and then obviously led to ticket sales. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, we were surprised but very happy.
Yeah, what I heard when in your explanation was it sounds like you and Eric hold yourself to a standard, which is great. And you want to, if like you said, if you're not at that standard, you don't want to do it. I think that's as like any, and I want to say that like you guys do flex your creative muscle, I think, in these shows, because you come up with stuff, combinations, matches, ideas that you could come from your brain, basically. So I think it's really cool to see that. I think like, and Chris and I have done this in kind of producing a podcast. Sometimes we just get in a rhythm and we're not necessarily maybe too excited for the next episode or anything like that. And then we kind of have to take a break and be like, are we really still enjoying this at times and things like that? Like, don't get me wrong. We are so proud of the work we put in this podcast, but sometimes you just kind of start rolling like a tumbleweed and you don't know when to stop, if that makes sense. And It sounds like you guys have identified, wait a second, like if we're going to put our creative juices and our creative mind into this, it's got to be something we really, really enjoy. And I think like you guys doing that show, like, to me, you're never going to get sick of it. I think really, if you aren't just do it, because if you start doing it the other way where you're just doing it, it starts to feel like work.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, it sounds like you're only doing it when you really have an idea you want to go for. And I think that's going to keep you guys still inspired, motivated, refreshed on like doing these ideas. So does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
It makes perfect sense. So like, I'm a huge Springsteen fan, and Springsteen's last new album was in 20. It's called Letter to You. And for a couple of years before that, he hadn't written. People were like, are you writing songs all the time? Like he was, 40 years ago, like every day. He's like, no, he's like, I hadn't written anything for like a year and a half. Like didn't even pick up the guitar, right? Like just, he'd done a bunch of stuff. And then somebody he knew passed away, and it's kind of sent him down memory lane, and he picked up his guitar and he wrote an album in 2 days, and they recorded it. And like, that was the album. Right. And it's like, sometimes it just hits and you're like, yes, like you're just pouring in it. And then sometimes it's not. And when it's not hitting, to force it out, just like, then again, like you said, just work. Then you're just making the dish because you have to, as opposed to saying like, I really feel like making an amazing, pasta sauce right now. And for us, we if we're gonna put a show together, and one of the ways we put together shows, and I think we might have talked about this before, some promotions, like they have a date, they book a couple guys, this guy, that guy, this guy, this guy, that guy, and you don't know really until the week of, like maybe a couple matches, whatever. We couldn't do that, right? And it's neither better nor worse, it's just different. Eric and I will talk to dozens of wrestlers, and we'll be like, hey, what dates are you free? What dates are you free? And we're like, all right, well, if we ran this date, this and this, there's our Haas match, this and this, there's the Lucha match, this and this. And we'll look at the whole thing before we commit to any of the guys or the date or the venue or anything. And we'll ask ourselves, do we have a show up to our level here? And if the answer is yes, we pull the trigger and just start texting immediately with guys like, lock it in, 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 lock it in.
Cool.
We never want to get stuck with like a date and a venue and a couple of wrestlers and just stuff we're going to throw together. Like we want to do it when we know we've got something special. And that's why for Trouble is Brewing, right? We had Revolution, we had this, we had Ali, we went through a couple different ideas for an opponent. Once we got Trey, we've got the match, we've got the venue, we've got the unique thing, let's roll. And then everything else fell into place, and it came together really quickly.
Perfect. I mean, we can get into a little bit of the matches too. You did mention Trey Miguel, Mustafa Ali. This is obviously Trey he's been a huge proponent of Warrior title holder. And then Ali is on this run, this epic run where he might be like 6-0, I think last time I checked. That might, every weekend that goes by, he might be increasing that win rate. But yeah, is this your idea, Eric's idea? Did this come in a fever dream? Or
I think there's the two of us kind of kicking around different opponents and ideas and looking at who's available and who Ali's facing elsewhere and that kind of thing. But for us, it had to be a match where the bell rings and the place goes nuts, right? Like just like this match is going to be so good. And there's a lot of great talent out there, but there's a shorter list of guys who are at level 10, right? And we didn't want Ali versus Charlie the Garbage Man, right? Like it'd be cool to see Ali, but Ali versus Charlie the Garbage Man.
Why are you spoiling my gimmick? Why are you spoiling my gimmick?
Yeah, it had to be somebody who's world class, like absolute world class, and could hang in there and put on a match that people aren't going to forget. And that's why, once Trey was free and it worked, and, I'll spoil this when I asked Trey, right? I'm texting with Trey, like, hey, here's what we're thinking. Would you be interested? And he texted all caps, I would be honored. All caps. Honored.
I love it. That's cool.
With Ali. And so we're like, great. And there we go, right? And so we were off to the races.
And this is, to be clear, too, the address, 3340 North Kedzie. This is the one in Avondale or Logan?
The Avondale Taproom, not the Logan Square Brew Pub.
Okay, Avondale Taproom. Great. That's even closer to me.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I picked the right. I didn't know any of this was happening years ago in 2018 when we bought in Avondale, and I have zero regrets. This is amazing. Cool. You brought, so like Sky Blue, Missa Kate, you probably list those two, and probably Laney's not in this match. But like those three are probably, I think, the top of women right now, with a lot of other talented women too. But you have two, I think, of the three top that I can think of in the local to the area, and then Queen, Aminata, and a triple threat.
Well, let me announce a little card change here for you guys.
Oh, okay. Am I spoke too soon?
No. Well, yeah. Well, what you said still applies actually. Here's why. So we, after booking the match just recently in the last handful of days. We found out that AEW is going to add a fan fest around their Revolution pay-per-view that weekend. And so they need Sky Blue and Queen Aminata for the fan fest that Friday, March 1st, out in Greensboro, North Carolina. So they are out of the match. So Missa Kate will still be competing in a one-on-one match against another person who is arguably one of the world's best female competitors and local to the scene, the returning Kylie Ray.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. Wow. Absolute slander out of my mouth. Okay, she's just not top of mind because I know she's off being a mother. So forget what I just said.
She is one bad mother because she's in shape and she's ready and she's coming freaking back. So Kylie Ray returns to face Missa Kate at Revolution Brewing.
Man, people are really going to be mad that it's sold out and they have not gotten a ticket because I think people were starving for Warrior. People have been starving for Kylie, rightfully so. And I think too, we can touch on this too. The almost exclusivity, not exclusivity of this show, but like that's something you wanted to do too, right? Where it's like you need a ticket to the show. Sorry, we're not streaming, but are there any options afterwards? Post show, we're
going to record a lot of the show. We might release some of the matches on YouTube or other places, but that idea of you've got to be there live, that's something Eric and I have discussed at length as we've talked about the future of us doing wrestling. And it's interesting because we were one of the first promotions with Warrior to get back to true live streaming in 2018. We did it through High Spots, and then we were one of the first ones back on Fight when Fight started opening up to the independents. And nowadays everybody's everywhere, right? Like you can stream, midget wrestling from Chris's basement somewhere for $1. And so like
I didn't know that was going on,
right? So you should see it like this. I watch it every Monday at 9 a.m. But you can stream everything everywhere now, right? And the amount of product out there from the big guys. So when we started Warrior, AEW didn't exist. WWE had two shows, right? Raw and SmackDown. That was it. Impact was on a station you had to like send a search party to go find. So it was really Raw and SmackDown. And now you've got Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all on broadcast or major cable. Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, all on major cable. Impact on Access. New Japan on Access. Like there's just so much wrestling there that I don't think people have the bandwidth to view indie wrestling streaming that they did maybe 3-4 years ago, because you have to get to like the 10th wrestling program that you might watch before it's an indie program.
Right.
And so now I almost feel like being on streaming isn't what it was a few years ago. And so one of the things we talked about is like, okay, Do we double down and go the other way? Forget streaming. You got to be there live. You want to see Ali and Trey, you got to be there. You want to see Kylie Ray return, you got to be there. You want to see who comes out to face Trevor, you got to be there. Like, you have to be there. And that is something that Eric and I really want to lean into with wrestling going forward. We went as far as you could go with streaming. Now let's go with a new flavor. It's a live event, baby. You got to be there.
I love that I love all the food puns because it's perfect for this podcast. And you're creating too a sense of urgency even for the next show too.
Yeah.
I think if you set that standard, it makes sense to maybe set the standard. Then once people are announced, they're going to be like just reactionary by because they don't.
Well, and that's actually a discussion we've had with Revolution, like for the next one, and there will be a next one. We don't have a date or anything like that. One of the initial thought among everybody, our people in Revolution, oh gosh, we got to move to a bigger venue. We got to move to a bigger venue. And then it was Eric who was like, well, pump the brakes. This is kind of cool that like only 300 people are getting in. And you know what? We're going to put tickets on sale and when they're gone, they're gone. And you can't stream it. Like there's something cool about that. Yeah. So we haven't set it in stone yet, but we started with well, gosh, we got to move to a bigger venue. And we've come around to, no, let's make this the speakeasy, right? Like not everybody gets in.
Yeah.
We got a line around the block.
No, it's cool. I just made plans with a friend about going to this theater on Wall Street called the Red Orchid Theater, and it's like very small, but they have big names there, so that creates a cool like intimacy almost to that. Like you're doing that kind of a little larger scale, but like with a one of 300, someone could be one of 300 as opposed to like just streaming it the next day. So you're creating a little bit of that atmosphere, which is cool.
Yeah, thank you.
It goes back to making it special, right? Like
yes. It used to be, again, 5 years ago, it was special if you could watch it on streaming. Now you can stream everything. So special is the opposite. Special is you can't watch it on streaming.
Just flipping the script, reversing the game.
Going mind games.
Quickly. So we're getting out of here on time. I was asked recently, I was recently on Pro Wrestling Enforcer. I don't think that episode's out yet. But I was asked about the Violence is Forever Latinos Most Wanted match. And because I love Saban Gage and Coda so much, my advice to them was just run. So I don't know if that's your advice, if that you think they can handle themselves, because they got some tricks up their sleeve, but they're going to need to pull them out. It's not going to be brute strength versus brute strength in this match. No. It's going to be they're going to need some dirty stuff. I think
there's two matches I think of, one for each team. I saw Violence is Forever face the Workhorsemen in BLP like 5 years ago, and it was just like an unreal brawl of a match. And then for Coda and Saban, we had them face each other at Warrior in South Bend in October. Yeah. They opened the show and they tore the house down.
I saw that match. I watched that match. It
was great. They absolutely killed it. They threw the kitchen sink at each other. And so if that's what they threw at each other as a team together versus Violence is Forever, like this match is going to slap, like absolutely slap. Like we're not doing an intermission for this show, but we almost need an intermission after this match just because like it's going to end with whoever wins. There's just going to be 4 bodies and maybe other bodies everywhere. And the audience is going to be just exhausted in euphoria. I cannot wait for this match.
Is there like surprise matches that haven't been announced going on?
There's only 6. The only surprise is Trevor Outlaw's opponent, which I will not be revealing here. It is someone who is locked in, and I will just say that the Revolution Brewing Taproom is going to go apeshit.
Okay. All right. Quickly, Sam Beal and Jason Hotch.
Yep.
Thoughts on that? Breakdown on that.
Sure. Sam and Jason have each been on Warrior shows in the past. Sam was with Impact for a little bit, now TNA. Jason is with TNA currently.
Yeah,
they're out of Toledo. Yeah, they're trainees from Trey Miguel and just awesome guys and awesome wrestlers and guys that we think, frankly, don't get seen enough in Chicago, and people should have more eyeballs on them. And so that's one of the things too. Is it's not being a Warrior show. We're changing some things up. Some guys we usually use aren't there, right? So let's do something a little bit different and let's bring in some guys that we don't usually use and that the Chicago scene doesn't usually see. And so that was our thought. Like, let's bring in some people that really have a chance to put a stamp on this show and kill it and make a name for themselves and come back again.
Absolutely. And then the other one is announced is Mike Bennett versus a new Warhorse.
Yes.
He's kind of like reinvented himself. So yeah, it's cool to see, just like you're reinventing yourself in ways. The Warhorse character has changed a little bit. I don't necessarily know too much about this new version of this character yet. But he's got a leather jacket. He looks like a mean biker a little bit.
So he is like a nihilist. He's like nothing matters, and
yes,
just kind of given up on everything. It's interesting because when I heard that this was coming, my first thought is always, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And then, of course, I never should have doubted Jake Parnell because it's just totally enthralling. And he wrestles in a different way. I think he wrestled a match in Beyond. Bless you. I think he was in Beyond, one of his first matches in this new incarnation of himself. And he wrestles different. He moves different. And I watched him wrestle, and I was like, this guy's like a feral dog. Like, he wrestles like John Moxley. And he just beat the snot out of some dude. And I was like, wow. So number one, that's awesome. But number two, it's going to gel perfectly with Mike Bennett because that's how Mike Bennett likes to wrestle. We've had Mike many times on our shows. I've had a lot of great conversations with Mike. Yeah. Mike just wants to beat the piss out of somebody and have somebody punch him in the face. And so this match is going to be the slobber knocker, tooth in the third row, like forearm to the face, sweat sprays everywhere. And so in the buffet of wrestling, we've got the killer tag match. We've got the great women's match. We've got the world-class main event banger. We've got the two young hungry lions. And this is the strong style match. This is the slobber knocker. Okay. This is the shoot style. This is the oh my God, like that elbow just broke his jaw match.
Yes. I can just picture you in like some kind of waiter outfit, you and Eric just putting out the dishes right now. Just putting out the dishes under the heat lamp and getting the buffet ready. Nihilist is like a perfect character for people that we were just, before we got on the air, we were talking about like how those couple days of sun and walking to lunch kind of broke us out of the seasonal depression. This nihilist character might be a good character to relate to the people with seasonal depression right now.
Yes. Yeah, right. Like, it's never going to end. It will be gloomy forever. Screw all of this.
Where is the sun? Does it exist? It's funny. I support nihilism, so I support this character. That's great. He reinvented the other, like Warhorse had that Slim Jim era. Remember, that was like the last thing he did.
Yep.
So, as a fan of Sting, I support characters that keep their name but continue to reinvent themselves.
Well, and the great thing too, and this is a little bit behind the curtain inside baseball, is that there's definitely an opportunity one day for 80s Ultimate Warrior Macho Man type Warhorse to come back, right? If he finds his smile again, and so Jake is just such a talented performer. It is legitimately a shame that he's not being paid a giant salary by a major national company because he is so good. So good. And it's just a matter of time before the rest of the world sees what we all know.
No, I agree. That was like the Brian Keith obviously just signed with AEW, which is congrats to him. I feel like Warhorse and even Laney, I feel like are going to be the next to go. Like I would put my money in that if it's like, who do you think is the next person to sign somewhere? I would say one of those two people. But yeah, 100%. So we're coming up on the time here. Chris, did you have anything else?
No, I'm just looking forward to the card. Like it's weird that we're talking to Steve, and you have that essence of it's being produced by Warrior, but not really. But at the same time, it's like we're looking at 6 matches versus 12.
Yeah.
Right. So very interesting, different take. But I'm digging it throughout from like the marketing standpoint, like the partnership with Revolution. A short show, you cannot stream it, so you have to be there or else you're gonna miss out. Just creating that anticipation for the next show, and now people are gonna be tuning in, and hopefully it sells out in 10 minutes and not 15. So just looking forward to this new kind of feel as you're trying to figure out what Warrior looks like in the future. This is exciting stuff,
too, right? Like it's an experiment, right? So it's not necessarily in its final form yet, but it's something that we're working on and trying. And from Show Length. So Show Length was very specific because we knew we were going to have not necessarily just diehard wrestling fans, but beer fans, Revolution fans, neighborhood folks. they don't want to watch a 4-hour wrestling show, right? Like it just, at some point you hit the law of diminishing marginal returns, no matter how good the match is. Like look at some of those AEW pay-per-views, right? Or WrestleMania before they split it to 2 nights, where you're like, I mean, this is good, but I've been here since this morning in my pajamas. I just, and it's like when you go to a movie, like if you go to see a movie, like sure, every now and then you'll go see a super long epic movie, but generally you want your movie to be 90 minutes to 2.5 hours. This show is going to be 2:15, 2.5 tops. Right, it's not going to be a 4-hour show. So those new fans that come in, we're not like, welcome to wrestling, sit here for 4 hours. No, welcome to wrestling, enjoy it, go nuts for the length of a movie or a basketball game or a hockey game, and then it's over. That's part of that theory with this new restaurant in our restaurant group. It is not the 3.5-hour dining experience. It's a 2.5-hour dining experience, and it's a little bit more succinct and more straightforward.
I love that. When you said, sit down here and watch wrestling 4 hours, I thought like the Clockwork Orange. Jeff,
yes.
Have you seen that where he's just like feeling the guy's eyes back?
If you've been to an AEW taping recently where they do like some early matches, Collision for 2 hours, then Ring of Honor for 2.5 more hours, by 11 p.m. I'm like, I hate wrestling. And I love wrestling. Like what? Like no, the show will be 2 hours and 15 minutes, pretty much on the dot. Get in, get out, do it well, and then let everybody have more beers and enjoy their night.
I love it. Great. Well, you've said, I think, all you need to say. Is there anything else before we let you go that you'd want the people to know, that we miss any logistical details or anything like that?
You can't buy any more tickets. Sorry. If you got tickets, thank you. We'll see you there. It's going to be a blast. Come loud, come rowdy, come early. Doors open 2 hours before the show, so show up. Get responsibly drunk, not too drunk. Get responsibly drunk. Enjoy the show, sober up, and then get home safe.
Okay,
nice. That works. You did say no intermission, so there's no intermission. I have to ask, for all the people that are always looking forward for merch, is there merch still going to be?
Yeah, is there any sort of fan fest or anything like that? Or?
Some of the talent might sign after, but there's no formal fan fest at the start.
Okay.
There will be show-specific merch. The Revolution team is doing event-specific merch. Awesome. Like you had to be there, T-shirt, hat, that kind of stuff, in addition to all the regular Revolution stuff. And then we're doing, everybody in the front row is getting a commemorative poster, commemorative lanyard and ticket. So there will be some very specific, if you were there, you got it kind of stuff. And that will, as we go forward in this partnership and relationship, hopefully that'll be one of the things we continue to grow, which is all of these elements of you had to be there. Oh, that's a cool shirt. Had to be there. Right? That's a cool poster. Had to be there. And that's really what we're going for.
Cool.
All right, gentlemen. I'm off into the night. We'll see you soon.
See you, Steve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys, as always.
Bye. All right, and that was Steve. We didn't get to ask him.
Steve. I mean, it was a time crunch.
We'll email him. We'll email him.
I'm just looking forward to it. I mean, I think it's a cool idea, a different take, like I said, but hopefully it works out for them as they're trying to figure out, what they want to bring to the fans. And it is true. Like the indie scene has changed a little bit, has gone through some changes. So that's, what we focus on here, just local scene and the independent wrestling. So it's cool to see somebody trying something different.
They're definitely separating themselves from the pack in a different way. I think like every promotion we talk about this on this podcast, all have strengths, all have things they can improve on. And why try to be another indie that just runs every month? I'm not saying, and I want to point out that this doesn't mean that like the shows that do run every month are low quality. They're not. But like, why try to do the same formula and try to outpace someone doing the same formula when you could just do your own formula? Is kind of what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I thought it was cool. You said that up front, right? Talking about different promotions selling out consistently over the last couple of months, right? So we definitely saw somewhat of a dip into like post-pandemic and people getting back into going to shows live and all that. I feel like we're so like still that's still around a little bit, but like we kind of put that behind us, and it feels like it's, at least for us here locally in Chicago, it's kind of ramping up and getting to that steady level again of consistent sellouts for different promotions, not just one.
Yeah, I think 2023, it felt like indies were a turn, but like the first quarter of 2024, it is like been lit on fire by different things happening in the indies, and it does feel like because we're making so many plans to attend shows too, which some people listening might laugh at that, but it does feel like, remember when we had that 2017 2018 run where we were just going to like multiple, at least 2 shows a month, everything. Like I'm not saying we need to get that. We'll never get back to that point.
Sammy Callahan style.
Yeah. Well, yes, we'll never get back to that point. But this quarter has felt like, oh shit, this, oh shit, this, oh shit, this. Oh, we got to go here. We got to go here. We got to go here. And that's what like 2018 felt like to us.
Yeah.
So it's goodly and truly back, I think.
I mean, and so I have to say this too, right? Like I think when this gets pushed live, like we're officially 7 years in the podcasting game here, Charlie. Like, like we've seen ups and downs, COVID, post-COVID,
as of the
canceled.
As of the 17th, right? Or 6th?
I believe so. Yeah. 17th, I think. It's when we recorded our first podcast episode. I think you and the original Two Heels and a Face crew recorded a bit earlier than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I still think that's a good date to put as like our anniversary date. You're in my anniversary date.
Yeah, there you go. At the Chuck Colorado compound.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Honestly, so like, and I meant that when I said it. Like sometimes we have gotten in a rut. But like super proud of these 7 years, man. So hats off to you. And I'm just really glad we met each other and got to do this and continue to do this.
Hey, we evolved it with the times, right? Like we talked about it before several times where we had to record in person. We made it a thing for so long until we couldn't, right? And I was really proud of that. Like being able to sit with you for an hour and a half, sometimes more, depending on how many beers were left over at the table after the end of the podcast. But we did that for on a weekly basis for so long.
True.
Until everybody had to adapt the virtual world due to the reality of the world we live in. But I mean, shit. And the time we try to bring that back, it didn't work out so great for us. Sorry, Coda Hernandez and.
I like that they keep making a joke out of it because that shows me that they're not truly mad. They have a sense of humor because that's all you can do about that situation is just laugh. So that's great. Well,
more to come for sure. Looking forward to Warrior. We have freelance ahead of us. Ego's promotion. They're running a show upcoming, so we'll definitely be talking about that.
Hell yeah.
A lot, again, new things, right? Coming up into the indie scene. So
yeah, I think like we had a conversation earlier in this year, and I think we just kind of embrace the strategy that Steve and Eric have done, where it's like, when it comes to this podcast, let's try to do things that are new and interesting and exciting and that we care about. Like talking about Ego's first show. And he's released some videos on it too, which also like make me want to ask him more questions about it. I think that's a really cool thing to record about. So like we're going to be doing that, and that's something I'm looking forward to. So yeah, let's not just record for the sake of recording, but record when we feel like we have a little meat on the bone and that we want to do it. So
yeah, and we're open to ideas. So if any of the listeners out there have any suggestions or things that you want to share with us, we're open ears.
Yeah, we got to figure out what the buffet
bracket's coming up. People like the trivia episode with Steve and Trent, so we might have to plan one upcoming.
We got to do another trivia episode soon. I think we had the freelance idea down where it was like, I think it was crap. Who were we talking about? It was a 2 versus 1 in a handicap match, and James is the 1, and then 2 Juice and someone else, right? That's the idea we had. Or did I have
yes. No, I think you're right. who do we talk? I can't remember who do we talk to, but yeah, we had that idea of the handicap trivia match.
Let me look. Oh, it was James versus Two Juice and D-Ray in that trivia.
There you go, D-Ray. Shout out to D-Ray.
Yeah, how could we forget? So we got to do that too. That'll be a fun one because anytime those three guys are in the room, they just bicker. Especially Two Juice and James, they bicker like husband and wife. And then D-Ray will be maybe the child that is getting torn apart in the divorce between those two. So
for sure. So good things. Hopefully, good things coming up in the horizon. But yeah, man. Cheers to the 7 years of doing this. Cheers to wrestling, and trying different things.
Absolutely.
Wrestling being a buffet.
Clink.
Wow.
There you go.
All right, man. Good episode. See you guys all or whoever's going to Warrior. You have to be there.
Take care. twoheelsonface.com for everything, and Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud. Viva La Chico.
# Viva La Chico. We haven't Viva La Chico in a while.
We haven't Viva La Chico in a while. We got to continue to Viva La Chico.
Let me find it should be here somewhere, but it is not. But find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
There you go.
That's Two Heels and Face. There you go. That's a good closing. All right.